Well, we lost a Hollywood legend today. Christopher Lee died at 93, and he was one of those actors, at least to me, was always around when I was growing up. There wasn't a time that I can't remember that Christopher Lee wasn't on television, wasn't in a movie. He was almost like family. His career spanned 70 years. He started, of course, in horror films, the Hammer horror films from the 1950s all the way up into the mid-70s. These were a British film company that gave a realism and a sexuality to like the Mummy films and Dracula. He played Dracula more than 5 or 6 times, and he played it like a sexual urban assault kind of angle. It's just really, really different. And they're all on DVD right now. I have some in my collection, and they're just really amazing films. I used to remember going to the theater and seeing Hammer films at Saturday matinees, like right on the tail end of that. Of course, the younger generation will know Christopher Lee from Star Wars as Count Dooku, and of course, Lord of the Rings. But he was much more than those 2 franchises. He was, to me, the greatest James Bond villain of all time. The first, Vincent Scaramanga from The Man with the Golden Gun. That was the first James Bond movie that I had ever seen in the theater in 1974. Am I dating myself? Yeah, I was about 8 years old. Saw the Cinemas 1, 2, 3 downtown in Las Vegas, went by myself, saw my first James Bond film, and I think he's the greatest James Bond villain, in my opinion. He had the 3rd nipple and everything, just like Krusty the Clown. Earlier I was telling you about how Christopher Lee starred in all the Hammer films, those horror films from England. Well, The Wicker Man, not the remake with Nicolas Cage, we won't talk about that, but this is the original Wicker Man. To this day, this movie holds up. It's very, very creepy with the Wicca and the chanting and the real creepy stuff that these pagans do. This is my box set that I got from Anchor Bay Video years ago, but this is an incredible movie, and it's one of my favorite Christopher Lee films. There's a great book out called The Hammer Vault, and this is from Marcus Hearn. This gives you a catalog of the entire Hammer history. It showcases Christopher Lee, every film, and I feel like Amazon here doing this, but look at this. It's got some great, it goes film by film, gives you the original press notes, it gives you all the, everything you could ever want to know about the Hammer films. And Christopher Lee is front and center in this book, and it goes all the way up into the Hammer films were revived, you know, in the, what about 5 years ago, with Let Me In, and I think, what was the other one? As I'm going blank here. Anyway, Harry Potter starred in one, Daniel Radcliffe. So this is an amazing book, a great legacy to Christopher Lee and to the Hammer films. Check it out on Amazon. I also remember Christopher Lee starring in some really 70s kind of era movies like Airport 77, which if you look behind me, I collect 16mm films. I have Airport 77 on CinemaScope print. So you can see Christopher Lee bigger than life, like 10 stories tall in my backyard, if you're lucky enough to come over during one of my screenings. But also we have to mention Tim Burton revitalized Christopher Lee's career. He starred in no less than 5 of his films. You know, Sleepy Hollow, he voiced in Corpse Bride. He was Charlie's father, the dentist, you know, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And, Willy Wonka's father in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And there was a great story he talks about how, you know, Tim Burton called him up and he's like, he was waiting by the phone. He says, nobody calls him anymore. And they go, well, what happened to you, Chris? And he's like, I haven't gone anywhere. Hollywood just doesn't call anymore. But Tim Burton called and jump-started his career. And that obviously led to Lord of the Rings, and it led to Star Wars. Thank you, Tim Burton. So this is so long but not forgotten to one of Hollywood's greatest legendary actors for over 70 years, to Mr. Christopher Lee. Thank you so much for everything. You meant a great deal in my life, and thanks for all the thrills and chills. All right, for more reviews and interviews, just surf on over to my website at vegasfilmcritic.com. Make sure you grab my podcast over at iTunes, and if you like what you see, please subscribe. I'm Jeffrey K. Howard. I'll see you next time.